Welcome back to the Leicester City Women's Wrap-Up Show. We're live today. We have another special guest with us. Like I said, I guess yesterday's video hasn't been released yet. But like I said yesterday, and you'll see on Saturday, we have a fun week planned. So this is just another awesome episode. Like usual, I'm joined by James. How are you today, James?
Not bad. It's a bit cold in Leicester, but apart from that, everything's all right.
It's warm here. I'm wearing shorts today, so you guys can have the cold for a bit. And today we've got Joe from the Leicester City Women's Supporters Club with us. How are you, Joe?
I'm not doing too bad, thanks. It's like James said, it's a bit cold here, but it's not too bad.
I can see you're both wearing hoodies, then I'm in like a t-shirt. Yeah. So obviously there's a bit of a contrast in weather. And it's a bit later for you guys for once. You guys didn't have me up early, but I have you guys up a bit later. So
I'm happy with this.
Yeah. So Joe, just to kind of start things off, you formed the Leicester City Women's Supporters Club. Just kind of like tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so that all came about as a bit of an accident. So I've been going to games on and off for a couple of years and not really noticed much buzz about the team online, and not really any even women's football groups talking about the team much. And just the idea of starting a Twitter page, really, just news, scores, that sort of thing. And that went on from early last year, like around January time, until the pandemic. And that's when Debs from the Football Supporters Association got in touch and just said, we're looking for more and more supporters groups for women's teams, and do you want to join? And it all sort of started rolling from there.
What have you noticed? Like, have you noticed like a huge shift in fan engagement, especially with COVID? Like, obviously it's hard having a supporters group, not being able to attend games or do like meetup events or anything, but how has it been like fan engagement wise?
It's been interesting. Like you say, it's been hard not to get together or anything, but that might have been a blessing in disguise, because it's been a good chance to see who's who and work out what's best and what's not in advance. But yeah, so we've gone from, I think the first couple of months, it was just drip feeding in followers and not more than a dozen for ages, to within 6 months, I think it jumped up to 500. Now it's 700 and something. And it's really, really nice to see that there's more people that care about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you've had that experience of like actually attending games in person. So how has that shift been to like the online world? Like I imagine it must be so weird.
Yeah, because of course there's only so many games that we get to see now, with the FA player being what it is, and the team not showing too many games compared to like Liverpool and that have their own TV service. So it's been interesting following along on Twitter as opposed to actually being there and watching.
Mm-hmm. But then we got that WSL deal with Sky and BBC, so the quality is going to be so much better. And
the whole thing is going to be wild with that, because we're going from not an amateur operation, but we all know the FA player has its issues with both picture and commentary and things like that, to the full Sky works, if you like.
We're going to have more camera angles, not on top of the stand.
Right at the back of the stand as well.
Yeah.
I was able to get to one of the Quorns games earlier this season when there was allowed fans in for there, and that gantry where the camera is will fall down at some point. So it'll be good to have something a bit more professional.
I'm glad that hasn't happened yet. Not during a game.
No.
Well, we still got more games to play, so. Bit of an issue, yeah.
Yeah.
James, I'll pass it over to you.
I think what you're doing, Joe, is amazing. I know it's difficult during these times. We had, which hasn't come out yet until the weekend. We spoke to that fan girl. They've got their own channel, and they're based around women's supporters. And they had some great comments around what they're doing during the pandemic. It has been difficult for them as well, because nobody can meet up. But like you, they're doing a great job promoting the women's games. We've had Matt Piper on a few times.
I saw the last one with Matter.
Yeah, the last one was talking about how do we get women back into the game during the pandemic. And I think what you're doing is amazing, because you're helping that as well. And me and Hannah are trying to do the same. So I think my question for you is, what does the future hold for the supporters club? Because hopefully next year, everyone will be back in the grounds. So what kind of, are you going to try and do meets and anything like that?
Yeah, well, sky's the limit, really. I think there's no limit to what we can try and do. I think one thing that's definitely on the agenda is travel to games. So with us all hopefully getting back to being in stadiums, and that away travel is one thing that's definitely there. We've got in touch with a couple of coach firms already, and after the promotion the other week, one of them actually got in touch with us then and said, congratulations, and we would love to be able to take you to games and all things like that. So that's definitely there. Meet and greets is there. Just more in-person engagement, if you like, as well as the online stuff.
And you've done like a lot, even just outside of Leicester. Like James was saying, the stuff you've done is amazing. Like, sure, you're a Leicester City Women's Supporters Group, but I see you like spread awareness for like grassroots programs and like helping like these local clubs try to find players and like young, like James said, like young girls trying to find places to go to play and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen you do like charity work as well. Like that's you're going above and beyond, and that's amazing.
With the helping local teams out and trying to promote them, and at the end of the day, it's just trying to get them to the level that they already should be if they weren't held back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Loughborough at the minute, so just a few miles from Leicester, and there's probably 20 men's teams quite easily around here. You could get in quite just like that, and there's one women's team, I think, and they've got maybe about half a dozen junior teams, so there's really not much around still. Mm-hmm. So if I can help promote them, or teams over Melton Way or wherever, it just helps.
And kind of just going on your point of like these teams not having many players and stuff like that, like Leicester was in that position at one point. Like we saw Jonathan tell BBC, like they only had, 12 players at one point?
Yeah.
And now they've won the league.
I've got somewhere, there's a team sheet from a few years ago, and you got the first 11 and then 2 subs.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Then the other side, whoever they were playing, it's just a full squad. So you can see what they've been up against, even at a decent standard, because I think that was 3rd or 4th tier. So you put that in the men's games terms, that's League 1, League 2. That doesn't happen in the men's game where there's only 2 subs there.
Yeah, and they're paid subs too. They're paid to be there. And one of them is Jade Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've come a long way, and obviously with what you're doing, it helps out so much with gaining engagement and stuff. So looking like, obviously you've been supporting for quite some time. How has like the supporters grown, like the number of supporters grown? Like obviously I always say like this season, from the start of the season to now, like seeing online, the engagement has like skyrocketed compared to the start of the season. So I'm just curious as to like, from your point of view, from like way back when you started everything, how much, like what have you seen in that shift?
Well, like you say, online, it's gone massive this year, but even just in the couple of years they've been in the championship, to go from when they were playing on, like Jonathan said, just fields with tin sheds, when nobody was at the games, and I was only able to get to a couple then, because you don't really even know where these games are.
Yeah.
So now in the championship, I think there was 300 people at most games last season. That's a big shift. So to now go from that to where a supporter's Twitter page has 700 followers, that's wild.
And I can't imagine how many fans are going to be attending games as soon as they're able to, especially with
really
the club
interested
going
in
up to the WSL.
Yeah, to see that jump from when nobody really knew about the team, like I say, there weren't really any buzz around when we started the group, to now the main Twitter account always posting about them. They're featured on BBC and ITV News all the time. People know that the team exists now. Mm-hmm. So if you can have 300 people there in a village in Leicestershire to go and watch them when not many people know, say they put them wherever they're playing next season, say they have a game at the King Power in the middle of Leicester, everybody knows about the team. You can imagine how many people can be there for that.
That'd be a dream. Just seeing them play at the King Power. I'd be flying out there right away. James, do you have anything?
You do say that a lot, Hannah. I think you've got some kind of private jet.
I actually hate flying. There's nothing that scares me more than flying. So it's easy for me to say I'm going to fly somewhere, but then I won't.
Yeah, I'm in the same club with that.
Yeah.
I don't mind flying. So obviously WSL, how does it feel? Because it took me, I know, as soon as it happened, yes, we got Ash on live, and we had a few supporters on, and it was amazing. I don't think it was about till 2 days afterwards where you think, we actually won the league, and it kind of starts to get in there. So obviously things blew up a little bit for you, as it did for us, because people were contacting us left, right, and centre. Now things have settled down a bit. Have you had time to reflect on that time?
Yeah, like you say, it went absolutely crazy in the first couple of hours after that game. And the first WSL game I went to was 2015, I think, just after the Women's World Cup in Canada. And it was Notts County against Birmingham, I want to say. And there was a decent number of people there, you know, off the back of the World Cup and everything like that. And to think that now we're playing at that level, that's one of the craziest things, because there was England internationals playing on that day and well-known players. I think Remy was playing for Birmingham that day. And it's just mad to think they're now playing for us and we're playing at that level.
There's like so many players from the WSL too. Like you look at like Charlie Devlin, we've got her, we've got PBG, and it's like these players are now going back up to the WSL, and those are only like a handful. Like there's so many more that have had that experience. And I went on to this other YouTube show recently, and they were asking me like what I'm looking forward to with going up to the WSL and everything. And then I think one was like a Bristol supporter, and the other one supported Arsenal, I think. And they just started naming out our players, and they were like, "Oh my god, like you guys are gonna come up and you're gonna win the league," because like
It'd be nice.
there's so many people that they recognize. Yeah, let's avoid the whole Great Escape thing.
Yeah,
Just
let's go
straight to winning
to the title.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so excited for the WSL. I can't imagine how the players must feel either. Like,
Yeah,
it's huge.
You don't want to get too like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, but it is a special group of players. You can all see that just watching on TV.
Mhm.
It does remind you a bit of that sort of 2014, 2013 men's side, in that you knew something special was there. You just needed it to come out, and it started to them, and we all saw what happened. So, you know, maybe it might do it with us.
I think it's good that, like I just said, a lot of them have got experience in the WSL. I think if they were a new, fresh team going up there, you'd probably worry a bit. They might get a bit starstruck being in that league. But as they've got that experience, they will help the younger girls through. I'm not going to be bold enough to say they're going to win the league, but they're good enough to not come straight back down. I think definitely be top half, and it'd be a good kind of base to settle themselves and then keep going and going. And as I've done with the men, keep pushing on every year, get better and better, aim for Europe, aim to get near the top three. And we're the club to do it. We're established that we know how to run a football club. I don't think we'll go into any issues like we've seen at Birmingham City recently. I think the future's really bright for us. And I know me and Hannah are constantly talking about when are we getting a women's kit, but we're not going to get into that conversation, are we, Hannah?
So many kit conversations.
I think it's not just the experience at WSL level. I think when you look at a lot of the younger players that haven't played there yet, they've all got England youth experience or other international youth experience. They've played at a decent standard even without the WSL. So there's not going to be anything that they're fazed by. Yeah.
And like kind of going off of what James is kind of talking about, like Leicester, that club, he doesn't see us going up and coming back down. It's also, I feel like the Leicester City owners and everyone at that club has shown like every single year we want to do more and more and more. And with what they've done this season with like the whole professionalizing the women's side and just fully supporting them, I don't see why they wouldn't just keep pushing forwards. I see them seeing like, we're going up to the WSL. This is a huge opportunity. And like Wes Morgan said today, like, give us 5 years. Then you look at what Vichai said. He said, give us 3 years. So I think that Leicester has this whole plan and there's no stepping down whatsoever.
It's never been a club that's done things by ours. There's a plan, and some way, even as improbable as it seems, it will end up coming true. You just can't doubt this team anymore, men's or women's.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at this comment from Willow, we need to play at King Power. Quorn only holds 1,400. I think, isn't Quorn too small for the WSL standards as well?
I think it might be the pitch as well as the size, because it's artificial pitch. There's not very much media access there. I know, I think it was might be the Man City Cup game earlier in the season. A few journalists tweeted about it, and you're not getting electricity there in the stand that they was in. So for the whole Sky production, all of that lot, it's not really up to standard. As much as I enjoy the fact that it's half-hour walk up the road.
It's just not ideal.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the WSL rules for this year is that I think your minimum ground capacity was 1,300, but that was out the TV deal. Once you put the TV deal into that, we know that when BT and Sky come to the King Power, there's at least 8 trucks in the car park with all the satellite equipment and all the rigs and stuff. So I think there'll be some extra rules and regulations.
Yeah, there's got to be.
And pitch sizes, etc. Because I don't think BT are going to climb on top of a stand and film as they do at Quorn. Because every time
we could shove Robbie Savage up on the roof, that wouldn't be too bad.
Every time it goes into that corner, no one's got a clue what's going on.
Oh no, you can't. It's not just that you can't see that. I mean, you've got this big production, big companies, and then the first thing that they're looking at is, with all due respect, a clubhouse. It can't just be like this brick clubhouse with, people just walking around and that. It's not WSL. It's not top level.
Yeah, and sometimes they're so delayed on catching goals too. I find like the camera's still looking at the player and the ball's gone into the net. Suddenly you're going to whiplash from following.
It's going to be good.
Oh yeah, the quality's going to be so much better.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see where Leicester play it. They might not play at Quorn. I'm not too sure they will. I used to live in Manchester. I was there when Man City's women's ground was being built, and they've got magnificent facilities. And we've got Beaver Drive, which is a magnificent facilities. It's Premier League standard facilities. So I can just see them going, okay, then we've got the training stuff. Now we need to give them a ground. That standard as well. And I could see if they could get 2,000 plus, they could use the King Power. I think there's a threshold to how many fans, minimum amount of fans for it to make it viable. But I think that if you're in the WSL, even if you're mid-table, people are going to want to come and see them. If you look at the crowds that Chelsea and Man City are getting in the WSL now, it's huge. And if they come to King Power, they'll bring people with them.
Oh, definitely. And when the Man City Cup game was first supposed to happen, the Man City supporters group had got in touch with us, and they were bringing a decent number of people with them. And that's just the away support, without even factoring in all the home fans that will be there. So when you've got a 1,400 capacity ground and a couple of hundred away fans, you've not really got much room left.
No, not at all. And what are you supposed to do at that? And it's so great because we saw like Man United playing at Old Trafford this season. We saw the North London Derby at Spurs Stadium. Like, it's huge to think of the women's side at King Power. That's just, I don't see why they wouldn't do it. If they have a day where it's just not being used, the women's team happen to have a game, just pop them in and fill the stands. Chairs. I don't know why I said chairs. Fill the stands, then you're all set.
Well, I'll be honest, I think they should be using it full-time from next season. I think if you look at Reading, they're using the Majewski full-time. Birmingham have said that with all of their issues, obviously, if they do stay up, they'll be using St Andrews.
Yeah.
These are decent-sized grounds. In Leicestershire, we've not really got the alternative. Like, Man United can play at a decent ground and that's not Old Trafford. Man City can play at a decent ground that's not the Etihad. There's not really any in Leicestershire. You've got Quorn's Leicester Road Stadium. It's probably the second biggest. It holds about 4,000, something like that. It's a decent ground, but it's in the middle of nowhere as well. It's sort of just stuck between Hinckley and Barwell. It's about an hour's walk from the nearest train station. It's not an ideal place to be getting to if you're a fan.
Exactly.
Everything points back to the one good football ground in the county.
And the thing that kind of makes me wonder, like with all of this, just thinking about like if they were to play at King Power at all, and this whole new TV deal, is right now we see so many overlaps between the men's and women's sides. They're constantly playing at the same time on certain days. So is that like with this big TV deal, do you think like the schedule for the women's sides are going to completely change?
Well, the idea, I think, is to avoid as many clashes as possible. You've got the 6:30 on a Sunday time slot. I think there's 11:30 on a Saturday morning. And even the Friday night game, would be at 6:30 on a Friday. So it's before the Friday night football thing that Sky has. So it's going to be an interesting schedule. It's the 2:00 Sunday thing might go out the window quite a bit. And if that's what it takes to get a bigger audience, then Go for it.
I'll be awake, so I'd love those times. It's later in the day for me.
I'd have thought 11:30 in the morning our time might be a bit awkward.
I'm used to it. So Willow says that Hinckley United might work, and you mentioned that ground, so that could be an option.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it's
so hard to
definitely the
predict.
best ground in the county that's not in Leicester itself. It's just the transport thing, especially if games are on Sundays where there's less transport links. That would be my one sort of issue, because you don't want to get promoted, all this good stuff, and then the games are sort of away from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, Quorn is 10 miles from the city near enough, and I think Hinckley's about the same. So the distance in that regard, not so much of an issue, but Quorn's right on, I think it's one bus, 25 minutes from the city centre. Hinckley's probably a couple of buses on a Sunday, or the ground anyway, because it's just in the middle of nowhere.
I think what Leicester will do, I think they'll probably go for an interim ground, maybe like Hinckley United for a few seasons. Once they're established in the WSL, they might start thinking, okay, then fans are growing, we're growing. Do we want to build a mini stadium that has the right capacity for the women, or do we want to use the King Power, which is already there? There might be an issue with the ground and stuff, because I know that when you play a lot of games, it's difficult to keep the ground the same surface as what it is currently at the King Power, and we all see that it looks like a carpet. But the ground staff have won awards. They are probably the best ground staff in the country.
Yeah, if there's one ground staff you're going to trust, it probably would be them.
Yeah.
I mean, another alternative you might say would be Loughborough University. That's a very modern ground. It's not as big as Hinckley's, but it's carpet of a pitch and all that. And I know they're expecting like 70 games a year on that surface, and I've never known it to be an issue. So if with our ground staff being, you'd think better than Loughborough University, you would trust them that if there's ever going to be a ground to hold top level football twice a weekend, even sometimes, it would be them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I think we've done the ground stuff. Obviously Sunday we've got Liverpool in the FA Cup. I think on the show that's coming out Friday or Saturday, I did say 3-0 or 4-0. I'm hoping I'm not going to regret that. But I think they're on a high, let's be honest. They've just won the championship. They will be on a high. They know they can beat Liverpool. We know they're a little bit of a rivalry there with them as well. So that's good to watch. I just think because we've won the league, they'll be on a high. They'll be so confident going into that game. And I think I can see them if the score earlier, it'll be 3-0 or 4-0. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I could, if the game was last week, so right off the back of the title win, I would be a bit more worried. We've seen with the men's team in the past, it's a title win and then celebrations go a bit too much and the next game's a bit of a downturn. But with them having that week to get it all out of the system, really celebrate. I think one of the interviews today, they said they only had an hour's really of football work last week to now get in and focus on this game. I think they'll do all right. I won't quite go 3 or 4-0. I'll say 2-0 or 3-1.
That's fair. I know when we spoke to Ashley, it kind of surprised me because she mentioned like Liverpool are that one side they always really look at when they're going against them and they're anticipating playing against Liverpool. And I was expecting her to say like Durham or something like that, but it was Liverpool. So I definitely think that they're also going to have like that drive behind them too of like, okay, it's Liverpool. It's that side that whenever we face them, we're going a bit nervous, but they're like the side to beat, which was so interesting to hear her say. So I think they're going to use that to their advantage too.
Yeah, and Liverpool are in some decent form at the minute as well. I know Jonathan were talking today about their interim manager. We've got them working better than they were before Christmas. So it will be a tough game, but we've won the league for a reason. We've beat them twice already for a reason. You would expect us to do all right.
You'd hope, yes. I'm sure we will. But going into this game, like, is there anyone that you're really watching for that's really stood out?
It's really hard to pick one or two players with this team because it's been a squad effort.
We always struggle on here picking like a man of the match or anything.
I could see a couple of changes maybe with there's still been 2 league games to go, and I know Jonathan spoke about wanting to get Cash the Golden Boot and
Mm-hmm.
the Golden Glove for Kirsty and that. So might be a couple of changes. So there might be a surprise maybe in the team that might be able to come through and do something.
You're saying that like you know something that we don't.
Oh, no, don't worry. I know nothing, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, going into this one, it's definitely going to be good. And like, how crazy would it be to have won the league and then we also have a player with the Golden Boot and the Golden Glove? Like, that's just, and then to also
any
set the record
doubts away. Like, if anybody was thinking, maybe they're not the best team, or the results speak for themselves, but to have every single stat lined up in our favour, it would be very nice.
Oh yeah, it'd be crazy. Like you look at United was in the championship and they went up, and people are expecting them with like the team that they had and still have to like set those records. But then Leicester comes up and they're the ones making the record for the most consecutive wins in the league. Like, I think that they're definitely making a statement to the WSL.
And the way that both teams went about it are quite different. There's no, like, Man U brought in Alex Greenwood in that first season. We've gone and got solid players, very good WSL players, but not so much the let's assemble a super team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes back to the ownership and all of that. And you look at when the men's team had Sven in charge and went and basically tried to assemble the championship super team, and it backfired. And I think even though they're completely different teams and all that, they'll learn from the mistakes with the men's team in the past and know what to put right in this team. Mm-hmm. And I think that's worked this season. It's a good group of players as opposed to 11 individuals that just happen to be the best in the league.
And you could really tell that with Leicester, we always say, like, you see the community within the team. Like, these are players that are playing together and they're all playing for Leicester. It's not just necessarily they're playing to be a professional. Like, they're not just playing for their careers. They're playing for, like, the club as well. And they have, like, those relationships and stuff like that. So, like you said, like, you nailed it on the head. Like, I think that's what really makes Leicester stand out from a number of other teams.
Yeah, well, these don't look like there's 13 players that hadn't played together last summer. I mean, to make that many signings and them all click, it doesn't happen. I mean, it's helped that we've looked at like Hannah and Kirsty both coming from Everton and things like that. So there is sort of connections there. Remy's obviously a Leicester girl, but it shouldn't work as well as it has.
Yeah, Jonathan knows what he's doing. Obviously, he's doing a phenomenal job. And
big props to Russ Fraser as well, the director of the women's team. Came in from West Ham last year. He knows what he's doing. Jonathan knows what he's doing. Jade knows what she's doing. Then it's all a good setup here.
Absolutely. You look at the setup and you're like, oh my God. And then you look at, like James said earlier, the issues at like Birmingham. And like thinking
there is
about
no setup.
Like, exactly. It's like I could not imagine that happening here at this point.
It's totally different worlds that we could be in the same league next year. And you've got one club trying to be as professional as possible and one club that's basically Carla Ward versus the world over there. Without her, they're bottom of the league. I don't think many people would disagree. And not just bottom of the league, they wouldn't even have a ground to play at the minute, I don't think, without her fighting. Yeah,
absolutely.
The fact that we've got, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch and in the boardroom, people that all want to fight together, it's a good sign for the future.
It gives us so much faith.
Yeah.
It's nice to feel comfortable and like safe. I'm not even a part of the club, but I know like there's that comfort.
Well, James will say, going back years and years and years with Leicester, there's been a lot of times when it's not been safe, it's not been comfortable. You'll have seen it yourself. It's nice that across the board we can say that we're definitely in good hands.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so good to think about. So kind of thinking about players again, like you mentioned like how we bring some in and all that, and the season is coming to an end. There we go. There's that comment again. So the level of play from younger players this season has been ridiculous. LaShante Paul, PBG, Shannon O'Brien, all amazing players at such a young age. Jonathan's made his whole philosophy, he's mentioned, being to bring in young players and to create like development within the squad. And like going into the WSL, obviously there's those veterans up there, and we do have some in our squad as well. But I definitely think that we have that bit of advantage of we've got a lot of young players that are coming in, and they're playing to like make a statement for themselves as well. So I think that's huge.
Even the experienced players, they're still young players. They've still got a lot of football ahead. I know Sophie's joked a few times about being the oldest in the squad and all of that, but they've still got years in them as footballers yet. It's not like you've got somebody that's like a last ride, like one last season, let's see what we can do. The experienced players are still pretty young for us. You look at the other leaders on the pitch, I think Ash is only early 20s, and Tash Flint, she's not very old either at the other end of the pitch. They're still young, but they've had a lot of experience in football already. And whether it's been in the WSL or with youth internationals or in the States in college football, they've been around enough already to not be fazed by anything.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to be using that experience to their advantage, because like when we talked to Ashley, she was like, I learned so much from the US that I still apply to my playing now. So I definitely think that's really good for all of them to have over there.
And it's so many different teams and styles, whether it's different teams in England, different teams in the States, youth teams at international level, they'll all have different coaches. They'll be able to take a lot from that all into one team now.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also those role models within the team too. Like I keep bringing up Ashley because we spoke with her, but she mentioned like when she had to play in the midfield. Was that against who? I'm blanking as to who that was against.
Coventry United?
Was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was recently.
It was before the London City game.
Yeah.
I'm always blanking. She was having to play in the midfield, and she told us like she had to like Remy talked to her at halftime and was like, you need to do this instead of this. Like, this is what's happening. And then we saw like such a shift for her. Like, so obviously like, and you hear about them saying like, oh, Remy gave us this talk at halftime and it really helped. Like Sophie Barker gave us this talk at halftime and it really helped. So it's like, you have so many people filling in that role of like leadership over there.
Yeah.
And I just think it's
well,
I keep saying everything's amazing.
The captain armband has moved around a few times this season. Like obviously Holly's not played much, but when she was on, she was the captain. Remy had it for a bit. Ash had it for a cup game, I think, and now Sophie's had it for the bulk of the season. It's more than just the armband, but there's leaders all over the pitch. If you can look at your team and say, there's about half a dozen players that could wear the armband on any given day, that's a really big thing.
Yeah.
Especially when near enough everybody's 24 or under, or even 20 and under for a lot of them.
Yeah. It's huge. It's like you look at certain clubs and it's like you can tell there's only one person that fits that role.
Yeah.
But then like you said with us, it's like so many people.
Just watching games this season, like when teams go a goal down against us or whether they go a goal up against us, you can see there's one player on the pitch for them that's talking and getting everybody in line. Anything happens for us, it could be any given player.
Yeah. That's
getting everybody together. And like say Remy giving talks at halftime, Sophie giving talks at halftime, and everybody talking on the pitch. It's one of the other things aside from just having a very good team that's pushed us over the line this season.
Talking about this makes me realize how great Leicester is.
We've done very, very well for such 3 years, I think it is, in the Championship. That's it. From getting completely battered by Man United a couple of years ago to now wanting to compete with them. If we both get through in the cup, we've got them coming up. And next season as well. There's nothing to fear now for them.
Exactly. And looking at that possibility of facing United, oh my goodness, United. I'm struggling with speaking today. Just looking at that possibility of facing them or Burnley, whoever it is, if we go through, like we're just jumping the gun everywhere.
Fingers crossed.
Just thinking about it, like earlier on in the season, Liverpool did beat Manchester United.
Yeah.
So
they've shown
think anything's possible.
Yeah, they've shown they can have a little slip here and there. They're one of the best teams in the country, but even the best can have that slip.
Yeah.
Just needs to be against us.
And even against Man City, when we faced them in the FA Cup, that was only a 2-1 win for them.
Yeah, and we had chances towards the end of that game. A couple of counter-attacks where we could have done something. And you've got to remember with that, we only had half the team. Because it was last season's FA Cup, so the rules meant I think we could only have 6 of the new signings. So there was players that would usually be squad players or anything like that were in the lineup and having to play very, very well, and did play very well. And that will probably the writing on the wall there that it's going to be a squad game this season. And if you add the first team players, if you want to say to that, we can compete with the better teams quite comfortably. Not beat them all the time, but hold our own.
Exactly. And that is, once again, making that statement going up to the WSL. Like, for people who aren't familiar with Leicester, they probably just see, a championship side. But then it's like, oh no, like, they aren't just letting the WSL sides walk on them. Yeah, exactly. So I'll hand it over to James.
That goes back to last season as well with the Reading Cup game. That's a WSL side. That's Remy Allen was playing for them then.
Yeah.
We showed we can compete then. And it's just
I saw her share that yesterday, and she was like, she said something like, "I'm still crying" or something like that.
Well, I was there was somebody a couple of rows behind me at that game, and Remy had tackled one of our players, and no, somebody else had tackled one of our players, and Remy came over to argue with the ref about it, and the guy behind was giving Remy all sorts of stick and all that. You just think over the summer, you've gone from having a go at that player to now she's leading your team.
Yeah. That's what's so great about it. James, I'll hand it over to you. Is James frozen? Oh no, he's moving. You were for a second.
No, I just think Liverpool, yes. Man United, hopefully, will they beat Burnley? I would think so.
Yeah, we had them last season in the FA Cup. I think it was first game after the new year last year, and did all right. They're a good team. I was able to watch them against Loughborough Foxes just up the road earlier in the season. They're better than a third-tier side, but with everything that's happened over the last couple of years, there's a lot of teams that are better than third-tier sides that are still down there. So it won't be an easy game, but you'd fancy your chances.
Yeah, totally. So I think going forward, obviously May the 2nd, we'll be getting the trophy. Disappointing. I don't think any of us will be there because obviously fans aren't allowed. No doubt there'll be lots of media down there. I think no doubt Radio Leicester will probably go down.
Yeah, I think they've got plans in there.
I just hope the club try and do something for the fans. I know it's difficult, but not having fans there is terrible. So I'm hoping that when fans are allowed back in, even if they invite fans down to Quorn to parade the trophy,
it'd be nice.
I think that'd be a good thing to do, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, it would have been ideal if the would-be next round of the FA Cup was a week later, because we could have all gone to that one, even though it would have been away for us. It still would have been nice to get a game in before the end of the season, but I'm sure they'll have some sort of plans, even if it's parading the trophy at the King Power, with fans being there for the last game of the season. We obviously don't know who will be able to go yet, but it would be nice for them to do something.
Yeah, totally agree.
The club store needs to drop that Champions line too. I'm just waiting.
I was waiting from that email for the last week and still nothing. But soon.
Fingers crossed soon. Yeah, I'm going to be buying everything.
It's nice to not have to badger the club about it. And, well, not the women's side, but just the helpline will probably be quite fed up of seeing my email address pop up in their inbox.
Yeah.
Now they've finally got something up there.
They're probably fed up with me not knowing how to apply my free shipping code. Still not being able to figure it out. Yeah, those are great people over there, though. They're always so nice and patient with me. Oh, such great. It's Jim and who's the other one? Jim and
Donna.
Oh, yeah.
Great people.
Jim's been the one that, going back a couple of years, I've spoke to there, and he'll always go out of his way to try and do something for you.
Special shout out to them for what they do and what they put up with. Thank you. But like the season's getting close to coming to an end. It's going to be boring not having anything to watch, but we do have the FA Cup still. Yep. And then I'm sure preseason's going to be before we even know it. All season, who has really stood out to you?
Ooh. I think
I know it's
Sophie.
hard.
Sophie's been a big one because the most experienced player, so you would expect her to be the leader, but she's made that position and that role her own. She's been super, super solid in the middle. So I'd put her up there. Tash, obviously, for the goals. You're not going to get many better goal scorers in football, let alone in the Championship. Kirsty's been brilliant, going for the Golden Glove, like we say. Ash has been super good at the back. I'm going to start naming the whole team in a minute. I don't know. I wouldn't like to put my name to a player of the season. They've all been brilliant.
Exactly. Like it's too hard. But I'll give you an easier one. What's been your favorite goal scored this season?
Tash against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that free kick. That was either that one for me or Esme's goal.
Yeah, I still fair play to Kelechi, great goals. That still should have won goal of the month.
Absolutely. James, what about you? Favorite player and favorite goal? Not favorite player, sorry. The standout player and favorite goal.
Cause arguments.
We do that all the time, don't we, Hannah? Favorite, you got me going now. Standout player, Ash or Sam Tierney's really, really come on for me. Been solid, been really, really solid, but the last probably 6 or 7 games, she's come into her own, I think. So I think probably her because of the way she has progressed.
She had that little spell where she had to play in midfield as well for a little bit when Sophie was out. Showed that she's versatile there as well. She's been another really impressive player.
Yeah. Favorite goal? Probably Flint's free kick, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Is she left or right-footed?
Whatever the time calls for. I think it's probably the best way to put it. If you can do that with your weaker foot, you've not got a weak foot.
Exactly. Like, I don't even know which. Because I remember she explained like that free kick and how she just last minute decided to change feet or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to tell.
If I went out there and tried in the garden and tried that with my left foot, there would be broken windows, and I'm not even sure there'd be my broken windows.
I love how she decided to try that. Like it was in like the last minute. And
game on the line.
Needed that goal. She's like, I'll just give this a go. See what happens. Oh, she's been amazing. Yeah.
Take some confidence as well. In just not just to step up for it, but to just go, yeah, let's just try this.
Yeah. I can do it. Let's see. Yeah, that one was insane.
Who's your standout player then?
Oh,
being as you've asked us.
Yeah, like I hope they don't ask me. There's so many great players. Ashley's obviously been amazing. Even like our new signings, like they came into the squad and have been like standing out like crazy. Like normally when you see a new signing, you're like, I'm not too sure, but they came in and they've just been doing amazing.
And Shannon to go from a relegation battle with Coventry United to not just taking part in a title fight to be a really key role. And had Tash out the team for a few games.
Yeah.
That shows how good she is, isn't it? Was she 18, 19, something like that? That's super promising for next season.
And like even thinking about Tash being out with Hannah Kane, like kind of stepping on more the injury that she's coming off of and how well she's been playing. Like what
I should have mentioned her in standout players. That obviously we've had the London City Lionesses, the first game, that was a big turning point. Her coming back from injury was a big turning point.
Yeah.
Just to have not just the option, but she's been a WSL player. Without the injury, she should be at the top level, and she will be at the top level again very soon.
Yeah.
If you put in a sort of prediction on who can make that step up to an England shirt one day, you're looking at her, you're looking at Ash, you're looking at Tash. They've all got the potential, and Hannah especially. Not seen much of her before, my fault for that, but she's been super, super impressive since coming back.
Yeah, like you can tell like how much it means to her too, and that's just what makes it so much better.
And we were still doing well before the injury, so you'd think, well, is there going to be a space for her? Where's she going to fit in? There. She's just going to take the space and roll with it.
Yeah, there you go. And there are my standout players, so it wasn't as hard. You guys were hoping I would struggle, but so just kind of like thinking about players and like we have like that window coming up in the summer.
Yeah.
Do you see the possibility of anyone coming in?
I think we've touched on there being quite a young squad, so maybe a couple of experienced players. A Rachel Williams at Tottenham, somebody that's been in and out of their team this season. Another Leicester girl. I could see her maybe coming in because once you go beyond Remy and Sophie, you've not really got a whole lot in the middle. Charlotte's obviously in there now. That's really it. There's 3 central midfielders that are out and out central midfielders. So someone like that to come in there and provide a bit of cover. We don't know what formation we'll be playing next season. That might change. So that might change what we're doing. But a bit more experience here and there, but not a whole lot more evolution of the squad, if anything. This is a talented bunch that will make the step up quite well. So it's just little bits here and there.
Yeah, I don't see us needing to bring anyone in.
No.
But I see like it's a transfer window. Like,
yeah, you're not just going to stand still because you will end up going backwards no matter how much faith you've got in your squad. You need to have just little changes here and there.
Yeah. And James, do you see anything?
I'm not sure. It's a difficult one. When you've won the league, people are going to start taking notice, and they have taken notice. And you could potentially get some of the big clubs come start sniffing.
Yeah.
So I think I don't see, like I say, I think they'll probably get a few in there just to bolster the squad a bit. If they can keep everyone together, then great. Just get a few more people for squad depth to take you into that WSL to cement that position that you want to cement next year. But I don't see them being much activity, if I'm honest.
No, I could see maybe a couple of the younger fringe players that haven't played much this season, maybe going out on loan. I know Grace was at West Brom earlier in the season. Maybe a loan for her in the Championship this time might be an idea if she's not going to be first choice or playing many games in the WSL. Same for Leah. She came in the other week and did very, very, very well, but she might want a couple of more games here and there. So maybe a couple of loans out, but I can't see many wanting to leave this group. And I can't see us letting many leave this group if the big clubs do come sniffing. I think it will. We're starting to see transfer fees more and more in the women's game, and I think it will take transfer fees to get rid of some of these players.
And like kind of going about a big club sniffing, I think it's also like big clubs are watching us, but players are also watching us now. Like we have gained attention. You see what we have, like that huge training facility, the backing from the club.
Yeah.
So I think like not only are our players possibly of interest to big clubs, we're going to be of interest to players of other clubs too. So I definitely think that there's that possibility of people looking at Leicester.
It's another reason why we should be moving into the King Power full time.
Exactly.
Something else to entice players with. But I think you're not going to get a better women's football specific training facility than Beaver Drive, I don't think. There's plenty of clubs that share it with the men's facility, but near enough all of that has come with stories of, well, we've had to move our training session to stupid times at night and things like that because the men's team have taken privilege, if you like. So to have our own facility, we've mentioned how good the ground staff are. The pitches at Beaver Drive are all perfect. It's only a few years ago that King Power have spent a 7-figure sum to upgrade the area and to make sure it's all top of the line Premier League facilities. It's only really because we can afford to have a £100 million training ground that we've had one. It's still good enough for a top end Premier League team, Beaver Drive is. And you think, look at the Birmingham players, there's some good players in that squad. They might look and think, well, hang on, that's just up the road. We could move there instead. I'm not going to move house, not going to do anything like that. And I've got everything there for me. I don't need to fight just to get weights in the building. Yeah.
Absolutely. The facility still blows me away that they've been given that. Like that's just, it's so amazing. And like the squad has so much depth. We have so many amazing players. I don't see us needing to bring anyone in, like I said before, but with Beaver Drive, I'm sure people are watching like, Leicester looks nice.
Well, you look at all the US internationals last summer that've gone to either Man City or Man United. Maybe it's Leicester City next time.
Yeah, we could see Alex Morgan just pop back into the WSL for 5 minutes again.
Yeah, exactly.
Come over to Leicester. That'd be really, I don't want to say weird to see, but it would be interesting.
Well, it's the perfect last name for this club as well.
Yeah, so it's even more confusing. I didn't even think about that. James, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No. It's been a great conversation, Joe. Thanks for coming on. And we are partners now. I keep forgetting because I think it was all decided when everything just seems to be going all over the place.
It just seemed the logical thing to do, but yeah, it was screw it, let's do this, and it seems like it's going to work. There's a good chance, especially when fans are in grounds, we can do some fun stuff at games and even just things like this, just every now and again. It'll be good to bring the two together, and with obviously us being partnered with the Football Supporters Association, they're always looking for podcasts, YouTube channels, fanzines, all things like that. So if that was ever something that interested you guys, I can obviously help facilitate that and help that transition, and it just seems mutually beneficial on a lot of fronts.
Totally agree with that. So thanks for coming on. One thing I do need to mention before I forget is that Neil and Alex are on at 8:30 tonight. They're talking about Sunday semi-final, and if I forgot to say that, Neil would kill me. Join them, guys. They're looking at what's going to happen at Wembley on Sunday. I think that's it for me, Hannah.
Yeah, so the women's side have the FA Cup against Liverpool on Sunday. As of now, like I keep saying, and nothing has changed. It is not being shown live on the FA Player. So hopefully we'll be able to catch it at some point during the week. I'm not sure when, but we'll be having a show and we'll be discussing it. And Joe, thank you so much for coming on. It was really great hearing your point of view about the women's side and just like the future, as well as just touching on the amazing things you've been doing. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been the first media thing I've done. I've tried to avoid it quite a bit. Tried to push a few more things your way so I don't have to do them. So it's been fun to do it for a first thing. Hopefully you can get that. What was your tweet? Like someone to do your hair and makeup and give you blue M&Ms? Yeah, it'd be nice. Just when we can have a proper meet up, get a studio, something like that. Proper setup. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks.